From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
All right, and welcome to as we get rolling into another big day here as we cover the war in Iran and so much more. Here are three big things you need to know that we're fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. Number one, the videos on both Bill and Hillary Clinton testifying under oath about Jeffrey Epstein have been released. And it seems Hillary has anger management issues. Yeah, there's a whip crack for you. Number two, the far left has hijacked the Democrat Party some time ago, is ready to take another step toward redistribution of wealth. Bernie and Ro Khanna introducing another billionaire tax to give money to their voters, of course. And number three, here we go. Democrats are once again attacking President Trump for doing something they've promised to do for years and have failed to follow through on. Frankly, I'm sick of it. Left-wing politicians and commentators are ignoring almost half a century of history when they claim that Iran is not a threat to the United States and that Donald Trump is acting like a dictator by doing something about the threat, destroying it. It's revisionist history to pretend that the Democrat Party has not waxed eloquently about doing exactly what Trump finally did. They just waxed without any results. Let's take a walk down memory lane, shall we? In 2008, this was Hillary Clinton's position as she campaigned to be the president of the United States. Here she is.
And I want the Iranians to know that if I'm the president, we will attack Iran. Whatever stage of development they might be in their nuclear weapons program in the next 10 years, during which they might foolishly consider launching an attack on Israel, we would be able to totally obliterate them. That's a terrible thing to say. But those people who run Iran need to understand that, because that perhaps will deter them from doing something that would be reckless, foolish, and tragic.
Totally obliterate them. Barack Obama said the same thing in 2012 during a debate with Mitt Romney before that presidential election. Listen to this.
The reason we did this is because a nuclear Iran is a threat to our national security, and it's a threat to Israel's national security. We cannot afford to have a nuclear arms race in the most volatile region of the world. Iran's a state sponsor of terrorism, and for them to be able to provide nuclear technology to non-state actors, that's unacceptable. And they have said that they want to see Israel wiped off the map. So the work that we've done with respect to sanctions now offers Iran a choice. They can take the diplomatic route and end their nuclear program, or they will have to face a united world and a United States president, me, who said we're not going to take any options off the table.
And after Obama won that race, his then Vice President Joe Biden reiterated the exact same position. Nothing is off the table. Here's Biden.
So we have a shared strategic commitment. Let me make clear what that commitment is. It is to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon, period. Period. End of discussion, period. Prevent, not contain, prevent. We are not looking for war. We are looking to and ready to negotiate peacefully. But all options, including military force, are on the table.
So Obama and Biden reiterated time and time again, the United States has always had a consistent stance toward Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons. Here's more.
Among U.S. policymakers, there's never been disagreement on the danger posed by an Iranian nuclear bomb. Democrats and Republicans alike have recognized that it would spark an arms race in the world's most unstable region and turn every crisis into a potential nuclear showdown.
Yeah. It was a lot of tough talk, a lot of posturing, a lot of puffing up, a lot of bark, but absolutely no bite. Because what did Obama actually do? He handed the Iranians, the mullahs, and the Ayatollah $1.7 billion in cash, American cash. He orchestrated a nuclear deal that everyone at the time recognized as weak and ineffective. Even Democrats criticized it as not going far enough. Here's another reminder of that.
The point at which they started with is not where they ended. Sanctions lifted. Inspections, the U.S. wanted anytime, anywhere. They didn't get those.
The administration set standards like inspections anytime, anywhere, and what we know about this deal says that that's not going to happen.
That is really the core thing. If you don't have anytime, anywhere, what do you really have?
If you don't have access anywhere, anytime in Iran, then enforcement becomes something really that's impossible to do.
We were told that this is anytime, anywhere. When you really read the language, as I understand it, it's not anytime, anywhere.
Well, Iran is unquestionably the big winner. Look at where the fireworks are going on.
Billions and billions will flood into Iran, legitimizing them and making them a bigger terror tool.
It's amazing to me that we included the arms embargo and the missile technology question as part of this deal.
Even Ash Carter, the president's defense secretary, has said that he has huge concerns allowing the arms embargo to be lifted.
The prospect of weapons going in is not a happy prospect.
You know, I could play you 100 more sound bites just like those, saying the exact same thing. You get the idea. And let's not forget how that deal unraveled like a cheap sweater. Iran kept enriching uranium, sponsoring proxies like Hezbollah and Hamas, and laughing all the way to the bank to cash our checks. Or wait, it was cash to begin with. They didn't even need to cash the check. Remember the pallets of money flown in under the cover of darkness? Obama called it diplomacy, but it was a giveaway to Iranian terrorists. Fast forward, and then Joe Biden unfroze billions more, claiming it was humanitarian aid. Yeah, okay, like funding missiles as charity. Meanwhile, Iran's centrifuges spun faster. Their chance of death to America got louder, and our allies in the Middle East begged for real action. Trump saw through the charade. No more appeasement, no more weakness. He pulled the plug on that joke of a deal in 2018, restoring sanctions that actually bit. But now, with Operation Epic Fury delivering results, the left acts shocked. Give me a break. National security analysts, military advisors, historians, everyone has always agreed that Iran is a threat, not to the region, but to the world, one that cannot be allowed to fester. But now that someone has actually done something about it, the same talking heads are clutching their pearls. Compare Obama's and Trump's response to the threat of Iran. Listen.
And with the world's unprecedented inspections and access to Iran's program, we'll know if Iran ever tries to break out. Now that Iran's actions have been verified, it can begin to receive relief from certain nuclear sanctions and gain access to its own money that had been frozen. And perhaps most important of all, we've achieved this historic progress through diplomacy.
The United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated.
Obliterated. I have an even better comparison after the break. Good morning. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, let's just jump right back into it now. We need a better comparison, do you? Okay, how about Joe Biden gave Iran $6 billion in assets? $6 billion. His Vice President Kamala Harris would have been even more generous, I'm sure. But Trump doesn't let our enemies take advantage of us, that's for sure. Like this.
What's the message to Iran?
Don't. What is your message to Iran in this moment?
Don't.
I'm going to bomb the shit out of them. It's true. I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah, quite a different message, isn't it? Democrats might not like it, but hey, it's promises made and promises kept at the very least. And while liberals here and abroad want to act like Trump is a rogue agent acting contrary to the interests of the rest of the world, the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, is here to put the record straight. Listen.
First of all, say that my thoughts are with the service members, the U.S. service members who made the ultimate sacrifice over the last couple of days. And let me also say that the commander-in-chief, the leader of the free world, President Donald J. Trump, I really commend what is happening here. Taking out Khamenei, taking out the nuclear capability in Iran, but also taking out the ballistic missile program in Iran. This is crucial. And what I see in Europe, I spoke with all the key European leaders over the weekend, is widespread support for what the president is doing, and also making sure that when it comes to logistics, access, defending key U.S. interests in Europe and in the region, the Europeans are really stepping up.
And in case you missed it, the UK denied access to the American military from bases in the UK, like Diego Garcia. Spain still holding out, saying, we will not help you. But there you have it from Mark Rutte. Widespread support. But if you scroll through the Twitter feeds of liberals or watch MSNBC, you'd believe that no one supports Operation Epic Fury. That's why it's important you don't listen to the people who consistently get every other issue wrong. Flat out wrong. Democrats want to gripe and complain about the constitutionality of Trump using our weaponry on enemies, but don't forget they tripped over themselves running so fast to attend every photo shoot they could with Zelensky, signing bombs for someone who's not even our ally to use against their enemy however they saw fit. Spare me the moral outrage, please. Ukraine and Russia have been locked in a deadly, costly war for more than 4 years, and these same people want to keep shipping bombs over there while they oppose a precise strategic strike that 49 of the worst leaders of the terrorist regime in one weekend were wiped out. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth is shutting down any talk of our strikes against Iran being the start of a forever war. Says it won't happen. Here he is.
To the media outlets and political left screaming endless wars, stop. This is not Iraq. This is not endless. I was there for both. Our generation knows better, and so does this president. He called the last 20 years of nation-building wars dumb. And he's right. This is the opposite. This operation is a clear, devastating, decisive mission. Destroy the missile threat, destroy the Navy, no nukes. All on our terms, with maximum authorities. No stupid rules of engagement, no nation-building quagmire, no democracy-building exercise, no politically correct wars. We fight to win, and we don't waste time or lives.
Of course, I hope and I pray that he's right. And I trust this administration more so than the previous ones. They will strive toward those goals of stabilizing the Middle East. Another thing that really struck me was just how grateful the rest of the world really is, while our own representatives demonize the operation. A fighter pilot mistakenly shot down over Kuwait, 3 jets, in fact. And when she washed up on the shore of Kuwait, she was greeted by a Kuwaiti man who is much more gracious to her than her own politicians at home. If you missed it, here it is.
You're fine? Really? You need something to help you? No problem, you're safe. You're safe, you're safe. Everything good? No problem. Thank you for helping us. Everything perfect?
American women warriors in the battlefield, too. More of this. Less of the fake hand-wringing from the left. And while Democrats play pretend outrage and rewrite history to bash Trump for delivering on their empty threats, the world breathes a bit easier. Spare me the hypocrisy. Trump's bold strike crippled a terrorist regime without endless war. Promises made, promises kept, at least so far. It's time to move forward, stronger and safer. That's what we're hoping for. And meanwhile, Donald Trump tells CNN the biggest wave is yet to come. The biggest wave is yet to come. We'll see what that means. They've sunk 11 warships, 10 ships, and 1 submarine. And here at home, Chinese state-run media is promoting the anti-Iran war protests, by the way. It's all being funded by, write this name down if you don't have it already, Neville Roy Singham. Made his fortune in America and then went to communist China to fund the undermining of America and American principles. Singham is his last name. You've seen these protests. They are not organic. Vans roll in, the signs are all printed, the people are paid, and out they go to protest. Okay, well, I stand with this administration, and I stand with the people of Iran, and I'm hoping for the very best. We'll have to see what happens. And that's the monologue. A new year doesn't need extreme diets or complicated routines. It needs consistency. Longevity Wellness helps you build that habit with one clean, all-in-one nutritional shake that supports strength, focus, digestion, and immune health. It's smart nutrition you can actually stick with. Start strong today. Go to longevitywellness.co and use promo code Gruber for a special listener discount. That's Gruber at longevitywellness.co. You're going to like this product a lot. And while you're at it and you're on the computer, go ahead and stop by YouTube and follow us on YouTube. You can get a new episode of Forgotten America, Private Equity. Private equity, pushing the bounds of morality and sometimes making the free market look bad, really bad. You're going to like this, Tiffany Cianci. Oh, it's a remarkable conversation. You want to go to YouTube, become a follower, hit the like button, subscriber maybe is a better word. Follow us, be part of the conversation. YouTube, Steve Gruber. I'll be right back. Well, if you didn't see them, the videos were released of both Bill and Hillary Clinton testifying on the Epstein matter, right? And those tapes are now floating around. Hillary Clinton seems to have some anger management issues, seems to me. Here's an example.
I hate this, but because I don't believe I should inject anything. But I do not want to leave the impression, but since there was no follow-up question, the president never, this is 20-something years ago, never said anything to me to make me think he was involved in anything improper with regard to Epstein either. He just didn't. That's the truth. As I said earlier, the only conversation I had with President Trump about this was in the early 2000s. And I have no information that he did anything wrong. I just want it all out there. I want everybody to get it all out there and let everybody see where we are.
No, I don't think he really means that. There were some really awkward moments with the former president. But he did just, in those comments, once again exonerate President Trump. I have no idea. He didn't say anything. It would lead me to believe that he ever did anything wrong or was aware of it. That's what he was saying there, the former president. Some really awkward moments and some angry moments from Hillary Clinton. We'll get to that next chance we get here. We've got a busy day, though. You can find those posts in my feed on social media. So go ahead and look that up as well. You can find those comments if you missed it. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what's going on in Iran with Ali Safavi, a member of Iran's parliament in exile. Who's running Iran today? We're going to get some insight from Iranians, what they're seeing, what they're thinking, and what they're praying for, as we're in day 4 now of Operation Epic Fury in the Middle East. This is the Steve Gruber Show. Again, remember to follow us on all those social media platforms. Follow us on YouTube, X, Facebook, Instagram, all of them. I'll be right back. Well, my next guest has firsthand experience with how brutal the regime in Tehran has been for 47 years. His brother was executed by the regime back in 1981 for his opposition to their oppressive behavior. Ali Safavi is a member of Iran's parliament in exile, the National Council of Resistance in Iran. He joins me now. Ali, good to see you this morning.
Good morning to you. How are you doing today?
I am well. We spoke here a couple of days ago. I've been trying to keep up with what's going on, but the information is spotty coming out of Iran. Internet service gets blocked routinely. I don't know what the situation is now, but 4 days on now, give me your assessment of where we stand with Operation Epic Fury.
Yeah, well, the fact is that naturally on the ground, given the scale of the bombings, people are careful not to come out because you never know where the bomb is going to drop, and then there will be perhaps collateral damage. And in fact, when the American campaign began, Mrs. Rajavi, the president-elect of the National Council of Resistance, sent a message to the Iranian people and told them to be careful. She also called on especially the younger generation to take care of the older ones and people who might get injured and care for them. She also called on the parties involved to exercise restraint in terms of damaging infrastructure and civilian areas. But when it comes to the organized resistance, the resistance units of the MEK, based upon reports that we have been receiving, they are of course quite active. In the past several days, a few of the regime's centers, IRGC bases, have been attacked by the resistance units. They have been disarmed and all the weapons have been taken away. Last night in the city of Qom, which is south of Tehran, a religious city, the headquarters of one of the Friday prayer leaders was targeted by resistance units, and they basically overran it and took away all the weapons. Also, there have been some attacks on Basij centers, the paramilitary goons, who I'm sure you have seen the videos of how brutal they are, and they have torched them with Molotov cocktails. So it seems that now with Khamenei gone, the resistance is beginning to step up its activities. In fact, the day when it was announced that Khamenei was killed, Mrs. Rajavi basically said that the era of religious fascism is over and it is now time to work toward establishing freedom and democracy in Iran. The NCRI also announced the formation of a provisional government based upon Mrs. Rajavi's 10-point plan, which basically calls for holding free and fair elections within 6 months of the toppling of the regime to elect a constituent assembly that will draft the future constitution of the republic. So that's where we are right now. It's a very, very fluid situation. And naturally, as you said, because of the internet being down, it's very difficult to get news. But our network within Iran is quite active, just as they were last week on Saturday, on Monday, I'm sorry, where 250 of them in a coordinated assault targeted Khamenei's compound. This is a week before the US hit it. And unfortunately, they lost about 100, and some were arrested, but 150 of them managed to withdraw safely. And that goes to show how well organized the resistance is, that under such pervasive repression, they can coordinate 250 to go and attack the most secured location in all of Iran,
right,
undetected.
When we spoke here a couple of days ago, you said that back, I think in 2009, the so-called supreme leader had decentralized the IRGC to the 31 provinces. So they had headquarters in each one of the 31 provinces in Iran, making it more difficult to take them out. But I asked you this, and I'm going to ask you again, is there a province or two provinces, you talk about the activity of the resistance, of the MEK, are there provinces that are weaker, easier targets? Because in my estimation, if you can get one province to fall or two provinces to fall and put up the real Iranian flag with the lion, that it would show real progress. What are your thoughts?
You're absolutely correct. In fact, Steve, during the 3-week-long uprising, the resistance units, naturally working hand in hand with the people, they managed to liberate the city of Abdanan, which is in the province of Ilam. If I'm not mistaken, I think it had a population of, I think 27 or 30,000 people. They liberated the city, and they forced the security forces to flee, and they held the city for 2 days. They replicated that in another city in that area. Of course, the regime sent thousands of reinforcement from other provinces. They also brought the Iraqi Hashd al-Shabi, the Popular Mobilization Force, to attack them, because a lot of the local, if you will, police officers, because they are, just like their families, and so they're not about to shoot at them. So they brought these Iraqi mercenaries and Hezbollah to suppress it. So the potential is there. If I were to venture a guess, the most realistic options would be some of the provinces in the western Iran, which of course have a history with the MEK, because when the MEK launched a massive operation against Iran from Iraq back in 1988, they penetrated Iranian territory with about 100 miles, went to the gates of Kermanshah, which, by the way, is my hometown. So yes, that potential exists. It's just we have to wait and see where this bombing campaign is going, because as I'm sure you appreciate, this is a very active war zone.
Yes.
So it's very difficult to move about. You never know where bombs are going to fall. So, but I think the situation is good. I think our network is quite resilient. You are well organized, and the weaker.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this before. I've only got about a minute left, Ali. 4 days in, at least 11 ships have been sunk. The Gulf of Oman has been cleared of Iranian ships. At least one submarine that was targeting the USS Abraham Lincoln, our carrier, was apparently sunk by the United States and coalition forces. Are you optimistic today? That's my last question for you. Are you optimistic that this will result in new leadership in your country?
Absolutely. I think it will. After all, we're very determined. You said it at the end, the start of the program. We've been fighting for 47 years. We've paid a heavy price. I think the day of Iran's liberation is coming, but of course through the organized, structured resistance, and for a democratic future, not the relics of the past, not monarchy. They're not going to exchange a turban with a crown. That's not going to happen. Iran has 35% of its minorities, and of course the son of the Shah has rejected them. So it's going to come. It's just a matter of time and organization, and again, as has been the case in the past 47 years, willingness to pay the price.
Ali, you paid a hell of a price, that's for sure. Let's hope that we have a new day dawning in Iran. We'll talk again soon, my friend. Thank you for being here.
Sure, and how lovely it will be to speak to you from a free Iran.
Oh, I expect to see you in Tehran. You and I will shake hands there. All right, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Greatly appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right, there's the latest from the parliament in exile from Iran. They're praying, they're hopeful. We'll see what happens, and I'll be right back. Here's a development and some other headlines as we try to keep you up to date on everything else that's going on in this very busy world that we live in. Activists, pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment activist groups have challenged now the National Firearms Act of 1934, saying keeping records, keeping lists of people that own firearms or different components, including suppressors, are, well, it's an illegal act, they believe. Knox Williams is the president of the American Suppressor Association Foundation. He joins me now. Knox, nice to see you this morning.
Steve, it's a pleasure, sir.
So tell me about this. The National Firearms Act of 1934 banned a whole pile of things. Tommy guns, for example. That was the height of the mafia wars in places like Chicago, and that's why it got through under Franklin Roosevelt's administration. But you're challenging several items in the NFA. Tell me about it.
Yes, sir. So the National Firearms Act, you're absolutely right, was passed in 1934 in response to Prohibition-era gangland violence. At least that was the justification for FDR and his Attorney General Homer Cummings. They did want to ban as many types of firearms as they possibly could. The original draft of the NFA actually included handguns and revolvers and any of those types of firearms as well. Thankfully, those were removed from it. It also thankfully didn't actually ban anything because they knew that they didn't have the constitutional authority to do so. So they set up a taxing and registration regime instead because they understood that would stand up to muster, at least at the time. And since the One Big Beautiful Bill Act was enacted, the tax on these items, on suppressors and short-barreled firearms, which fell under the blanket of the National Firearms Act, has been eliminated. And our lawsuit contends that without the tax, the registration regime is now unconstitutional.
All right, so a registration scheme unconstitutional. I need to ask you about a case that was argued yesterday in front of the Supreme Court. A man told that he had no constitutional right to carry or to have firearms because he smoked marijuana. 40 states have legalized marijuana in this country. Of course, it's illegal federally. Seems like another end run. I didn't realize if you got high, you lost your constitutional rights. I don't partake, but obviously millions of people do. You must have heard the arguments yesterday. Lay it out for the folks that missed this one, because this kind of caught me by surprise. Your thoughts?
Yeah, you're talking about the mini case. That's going to be a very interesting one to track in terms of what constitutes a prohibited person when it comes to unlawful substance use. I really honestly don't know how to read the tea leaves on this one. I unfortunately wasn't able to listen to the oral arguments, but plan on reading those this morning. But it comes down to a central question of, whether it's marijuana or any other type of illicit substance as defined by the government. How does that impact your Second Amendment rights and your ability to own and possess firearms? It is going to be quite interesting to see where they fall on that. I don't know that anybody is really sure where they're going to land.
Yeah, the question is, does a federal law that prohibits the possession of firearms by a person who is an unlawful user and addicted to any controlled substance? What I found interesting in the oral arguments was Neil Gorsuch, Justice of the Supreme Court, talking about how much our forefathers consumed alcohol. If you did 8 shots of whiskey a day, if you didn't hear the oral arguments, I'll share. If you did 8 shots of whiskey a day, you were not a drunkard, because a drunkard could not have a gun, according to the founders, the way they looked at it. You had to drink 16 shots of whiskey a day to qualify. Good Lord, Knox. Those folks had a bit of a drinking problem, it seems to me. But let's look. If you get high, you don't forfeit your constitutional rights. That's the way I see it. It's pretty cut and dried to me. You don't lose your right to free speech. You don't lose your right to peacefully assemble or whatever. And the guy in question here was not a daily user of marijuana. He used it every other day, they figured. And they tried to take away his constitutional rights. But you're right. Very mixed signals from the Supreme Court. But overall, over the last 20 years, the Supreme Court has sided time and again with the right to keep and bear arms. I would hope they stay on that path. And you say?
No, I agree. I mean, look, you hit the nail on the head. The Second Amendment affirms the right of the people, same as the First, same as the Fourth. And I don't believe that you should lose those rights based on certain circumstances. In this one, the circumstances around the defendant in this case are pretty bad. By all accounts, it doesn't seem like he was necessarily a good guy. But nonetheless, It's why we have the Supreme Court to be able to interpret the laws and tell us whether or not they stand up to constitutional muster.
And concerning your lawsuit against the National Firearms Act of 1934, where are we? Where was the lawsuit filed? And what is, these things are time consuming. There is a process, I tell people. If you expect it to be quick, you're kidding yourself. Where are you in the procedure?
Yes, sir, you're absolutely right. We measured timelines in terms of years, not weeks and months. Unfortunately, these things do move at a glacial pace. So we filed the lawsuit in the Eastern District of Kentucky, and it's actually one of 3 lawsuits that the American Suppressor Association is supporting. We've got one lawsuit that we filed, Brown v. ATF, in Eastern District of Missouri. We've got one in Texas, and we've got now this 3rd lawsuit in Kentucky that we are supportive of, all with the same goal of rendering the inclusion of suppressors and short barrel firearms in the National Firearms Act unconstitutional.
Knox, really appreciate you being here. These are important cases that impact Americans, 350 million of us. So I appreciate you stopping in and sharing that with us. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Knox Williams, President, American Suppressor Association Foundation. And there you have it. So what do you think? You send me an email on this one. If you smoke marijuana, should you lose your constitutional rights? That's my question to you. Send me an email at stevegruber.com. Skip the boring pills. Trim Rocks is the fun, fizzy way to support your metabolism and energy naturally. Just pop it in your mouth and let it work. It features guayusa and green coffee beans for a gentle plant-based energy lift and camu camu for immune support. Trim Rocks supports fat burning, blood sugar balance, and steady energy. Purple tea extract helps with weight management and helps stabilize blood sugar naturally. It's from my friends at Victory Nutrition International. It's nutrition that gets in. VNI.life/Gruber. You'll get a 20% discount. If you subscribe, you'll save even more. Become a subscriber. They only have 6 products. These are the best vitamins and supplements that we have found anywhere. VNI.life/Gruber. Save 20%. And if you get that subscription, a better discount and free shipping forever. I'll take a break and be right back with more Bill Clinton. All right, here was the question asked by Nancy Mace yesterday. Well, 2 days ago. The videotape was released yesterday, so we got to see it. Congresswoman Nancy Mace asking Bill Clinton, why would they write in emails that were discovered in the Epstein files that you like them young, Mr. President? Boy, was it awkward. Listen to this.
Witnesses who testified in the Epstein cases that Epstein said, you quote, like them young. Why would Epstein say that about you?
Are you asking his opinion? You're asking him to think about why Mr. Epstein would say something about him?
Why would Epstein say that about the
So she's asking
president?
you to try to be in Mr. Epstein's mind and guess at what Mr. Epstein would have thought about.
Clinton likes them young, referring to girls.
First of all, that's not true.
What's not true?
That I have any interest in underage.
I didn't say underage. I said young.
But it's still not true.
Is an intern young?
Yes.
Okay.
At my age, anybody younger than I am.
Did you
is
know
young.
Jeffrey Epstein instructed a witness to deny you were ever on his island?
He didn't have to since I was never there.
Did you ever travel to Zorro Ranch?
Is that the one in New Mexico?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Have you ever flown on anyone else's private jet 26 times or more for overseas trips?
I have flown as many miles on other jets, but never with as many stops.
How many other people's planes have you used, like Epstein 26 times or miles, etc.?
I don't know. I did.
I did not have sexual relations with 127 young girls. Boy, was that awkward. The other thing that's quite obvious there, for anybody watching the video, his hand is shaking. I mean, he has some health issues that have been compiling, I suppose. Bill Clinton, not a good look. Is an intern young? Yes. Oh, I thought you didn't like him young. Busted. That's what I would say. Follow me on all the social media platforms. Make sure you go to YouTube. Check out the new edition of Forgotten America on private equity. It is quite the listen. I'll take a break and be back. It's the Steve Gruber Show on a Tuesday. Nice to see you.
From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
All right, welcome back as we continue fighting for you and America from the foxhole of freedom. Digging deeper to give you the insight and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. Three big things to cover this hour. Number one, if you smoke weed, do you lose your Second Amendment rights? That was argued in front of the U.S. Supreme Court Monday. It's not clear how the court may rule, but it would be easy for me. No. Number two, the death toll in Operation Epic Fury has now grown to 6, and the campaign to end Iran's 47-year reign of terror is ongoing. Even the French have decided to join, of course, now that we've done the hard work. And number three, all eyes remain on the Middle East as the latest military engagement involving the United States. And even though the press corps wants to attack the Trump administration, they're sticking to their guns. They are. Marco Rubio. Look, this guy has done a master class as Secretary of State, maybe the best ever. And he hammers reporters with something we like to call the truth. Here he is.
Well, we did. We notified Congress. I mean, we notified the Gang of Eight. We notified congressional leadership. There's no law that requires us to do that. The law says we have to notify them 48 hours after beginning hostilities. We've done that. I think the notification went today. But we did notify members of Congress in advance. But we can't notify 535 members of Congress. Well, the Congress can vote on whatever they want, but there's no law that requires us to do that. And I want to say something because I see people on TV. Look, that's fine. If they want to take a war powers vote, they can do that. They've done that. They've done that a bunch of times. But there's no, people keep saying that there's no law that requires the president to have done anything with regards to this. To begin with, no presidential administration has ever accepted the War Powers Act as constitutional. Not Republican presidents, not Democratic presidents. That said, we have followed the notification at 48 hours, and we're here today. I've done more Gang of Eight briefings than I got in the 4 years that Biden was president and I was a member of the Gang of Eight. All of that said, we've complied with the law 100%, and we're going to continue to comply with it.
Yeah, going to continue to comply. Rubio also made it clear on the question of why now? Why did you attack Iran now? Well, let me tell you something. From my sources inside, there was a growing threat, a real growing threat that Iran was about to launch attacks against American facilities all over the Middle East. If we had waited, the collateral damage, the loss of life would have been staggering. That's why the decision was made to go now. Listen to Rubio again.
There absolutely was an imminent threat, and the imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us. And we were not going to sit there and absorb a blow before we responded, because the Department of War assessed that if we did that, if we waited for them to hit us first after they were attacked, and by someone else, Israel attacked them, they hit us first, and we waited for them to hit us, we would suffer more casualties and more deaths. We went proactively in a defensive way to prevent them from inflicting higher damage. Had we not done so, there would have been hearings on Capitol Hill about how we knew that this was going to happen and we didn't act preemptively to prevent more casualties and more loss of life.
Yeah, there you have it. And there is the argument. 47 years after, look, I don't know where you were in 1979. In 1979, where were you? I was in middle school, all right? And we watched every night as the embassy in Tehran fell, as 52 American hostages were paraded around, blindfolded, abused, tortured, said some. I've had the opportunity to speak to some of those former hostages in recent years. A horrible time. 444 days, not released until 20 minutes after Ronald Reagan became president. And the weak President Jimmy Carter exited the stage, thank God. Then, of course, you had the 2 attacks in Lebanon. First on the embassy that killed a number of Americans. Then the mass casualty event at the Marine barracks also in Lebanon, 1983, both of those events. The USS Cole, October of 2000. And the list just goes on. When you bring in Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas, and all the rest that Iran supplied. This is not the beginning of a war, it's the end of one. 47 years later. And Iran, with its ballistic missile stockpile, could reach 2,000 miles, allegedly. But they have been degraded across the board. At least 11 of their Navy vessels gone, 10 ships, 1 submarine. Their ability to launch missiles greatly degraded, though they've been able to hit a few targets in places like the UAE and Bahrain. We'll see how this continues to play out. Tim Burchett, by the way, my friend from East Tennessee, member of Congress, he has an observation about the biggest change over the last year in the United States military and why it's different. Listen to this.
So there's really a lot going on. I think the main thing you got to realize, and the world realizes, is our military is not being run by a bunch of men in dresses anymore.
You know, he has a way to just put it right out there. U.S. military is not being run by a bunch of men in dresses anymore. We have people that are serious about their job and doing what needs to be done. We've seen 2 of the most remarkable exercises of military power. If there was any question about whether or not the United States is still a superpower, that was answered in Venezuela, and it's been answered in Iran. Meanwhile, on NBC, their pretend reporter slams Pete Hegseth for going through the history of violence sponsored by Iran. Somehow this is the wrong thing to do. This is so bad. Listen.
Also, Hegseth said repeatedly that the United States didn't start this war. That will clearly be greeted with a lot of skepticism in this part of the world, because it was Israel and the United States that launched this war. It was described as a preemptive attack, with that surprise attack against Iran to target the senior leaders, targeting the late supreme leader of Iran. When he talked about how it was Iran that started the war, he talked about old grievances going back to 1979, when the Islamic revolutionary government overthrew the Shah. He talked about revenge for the IED attacks that Iran and Iranian-backed militias carried out against U.S. troops in Iraq. So it seems that this is more old grievances meeting an opportunity and meeting a president of the United States and a prime minister of Israel who are willing to act on those old grievances.
Old grievances. I guess it's his position that Americans being killed who were not in combat but targeted by terrorist attacks, hundreds of them killed. In Lebanon, 17 sailors killed on the USS Cole, and the list goes on. Old grievances, he says. Well, to me, still feels pretty fresh. Remember the American sailors on their knees, hands clasped behind their heads because Iran had raided an American Navy vessel when Barack Obama was president? Remember that, humiliating us? Well, no more. No more. We'll take a break and be right back. It is the Steve Gruber Show. deeper into the stories that impact you the most. All right, so let's talk about something completely different now. Katie Daniels, the Director of Legal Affairs at the Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America organization. She joins me now. Katie, good to have you here.
Good morning.
A lot of conversations in your circles about the abortion pill, right? The abortion kill pill. And President Trump's Department of Justice, you say, just denied justice on January 27th to a woman from Louisiana who was coerced into a chemical abortion. Tell us about this case.
So this is a case where the state of Louisiana passed a law right away protecting all unborn babies from conception, and yet they are still fighting against states like New York and California and against the federal FDA, who are allowing these drugs to be shipped by mail nationwide, including into Louisiana. So Louisiana law enforcement has been investigating when these drugs are shipped in, but it's ultimately actually Louisiana doctors in the emergency room who are the ones first on the front lines of these cases, because women either order the drugs online because they're told it's going to be safe, or increasingly a boyfriend or a partner, somebody else orders these drugs online, slips them into her drink, pressures her into taking them, and then she ends up in the emergency room. So Louisiana has said enough is enough. We're sick of our people being hurt, and we're going to go into federal court and fight for our citizens.
So how do you correct this? How do you push back on this if you can't get support from the DOJ?
Well, we're hoping that as this case proceeds, the judge sees what we do, which is that FDA was getting it completely wrong when they allowed these drugs to be put in the mail, that they did not follow federal law, and they're not following the science right now. And so we're hopeful that the court will take a long look at this and say, we need to reverse course at FDA, and they will compel them to get these dangerous drugs out of the mail.
And tell the folks the name of this drug again, because it's out there, it gets delivered around, and you think there are a lot of other safety concerns with this drug.
Yeah, absolutely. This drug is called mifepristone, and the FDA says under perfect circumstances, which to them means 3 in-person doctor's visits, 1 in 25 American women will go to the emergency room. So even under quote unquote perfect circumstances, this drug is, almost always lethal to the baby, but it's also extremely harmful for the mom. And what recent data has shown is that under the actual circumstances of these drugs on the US market, it's more like 1 in 10 women who are going to the emergency room. So we hear from doctors all the time, I treat a woman with abortion complications every shift. So this is a huge nationwide problem, and we're glad to see our Republican attorneys general standing up for women and their unborn babies.
Yeah. All right, so how do you reverse course on this? This pill's been on the market for how long?
It's been on the market for 25 years. So it was brought to market by Bill Clinton, and it's stayed on the market since then. But under Joe Biden, pretty much all of the restrictions around it were removed, and that's when it was allowed to be sent through the mail. So what FDA should do today is take these dangerous drugs out of the mail. They've said that they're doing a safety review. That's important. That's great. Our institution has peer-reviewed research that they should be relying on for that review, but they have the authority today to take these dangerous drugs out of the mail. And if you look at national polling, the American people support that, almost an 80-20 issue.
An 80-20 issue. Let me ask you this. Health and Human Services, Bobby Kennedy, is there anything that he can do or that department can do to help move it?
Yes.
Because obviously he's taking on big pharma, he's taking on vaccines. What can be done there, and will he?
Yes, at a minimum, they can get this drug out of the mail. Ultimately, we'd like them to follow the science and see that this is an inherently dangerous drug, and there should be significantly more restrictions on it. But at a minimum, HHS, RFK can be partnering with our Republican states to stop men from being able to access this drug, to stop states from, like California, from protecting these abortionists who are breaking state and federal law. There's a lot that we would love to partner with the federal government on this. They just can't be afraid of the big A word, abortion.
Yeah, strong problem there. Where do you hope to be? Just let me wrap this up, because 25 years, it's going to be it's going to be a challenge. Obviously, you've got a lot of other organizations that fight back against any restrictions on abortion at all. They'd like to have the MAID laws in Canada be part of the program here in America. By the way, let me just give people an aside on this. In Canada, they've passed 100,000 people that have been euthanized, killed with the blessing of the government. Now, that's 1 in 20 deaths in Canada. 1 in 20 deaths in Canada. If you put that same number in America, it'd be the third leading cause of death. The point that I'm making here is that they don't care about life. Life is irrelevant to too many people anymore. And whether it's abortion or assisted suicide or whatever it may be, life doesn't have the special place it should. Last word to you.
That's absolutely right. Our hope is that when our institutions actually follow the science, what they see is that these drugs are unacceptably dangerous, of course, to the hundreds of thousands of babies that they kill, but also to the tens of thousands, and increasingly that number is going up as these drugs are in the mail, to all those women who are being told, this is fine, this will solve your problem. And in reality, it creates a host of new problems related to the shame and guilt and grief of the baby, but also serious medical complications that can put her in the emergency room. So we've got to put a stop to this dangerous drug.
I really appreciate you being here. It's an important topic that people aren't covering. Katie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. So there's that. We'll take a break, and still to come today, we're talking to Holly Adams. She's running for Congress in Ohio, fighting for a swing district in what could be a very difficult election. We'll see how it plays out. A lot of Americans not happy with the action in Iran. I think it's the right thing, but apparently I am the minority. And that's okay. I don't mind standing there on principle. I'll take a break and be right back. All right, well, the polling, just to be clear here, the polling for President Trump on the war is not good, all right? Support for this in the low 40s at best. Some say it's in the 20s. I don't believe that. I think that's a bogus poll from Reuters. But support for this war is not good. And you couple that with the historic challenges of the party in the White House during midterms, it could be ugly in November. The question is, how do you feel about this? See, for me, it's not a hard choice. Because if not Trump, and if not now, then who and when? Iran would have continued to attack its neighbors, continued to enrich uranium, threaten the entire region. This is not going to be World War III. This was doing something that needed to be done a long time ago. Barack Obama delivered $1.7 billion in cash under the cover of darkness. Joe Biden gave him $6 billion more by releasing their funds. But it seems that people are so myopic, so short-sighted that they don't understand that. And look, if President Trump is not treated well at the polls and is punished in the midterm elections for this, so be it. So be it. Because Otherwise, Iran would have been what they are for the rest of my life and yours. A murderous regime destabilizing the Middle East and elsewhere. But Donald Trump is systematically taking down the dictators in Venezuela, Tehran. Cuba will soon fall and be free again. Lose the midterm elections? Maybe. Could be likely, in fact. And maybe it's worth the price to do the right thing. Doing the right thing isn't always popular. Remember how many Americans were completely opposed to joining World War II, just for the record. I'll take a break and be right back. I'm in contact with a number of pollsters, ones that I trust, and they say that the war in Iran does not play well, hasn't changed the approval ratings of the president in 4 days, so it hasn't had a real impact yet, politically speaking. Of course, the Democrats will use this as a cudgel to try to say that Donald Trump has done the wrong thing, but I would ask you this. If Donald Trump was going to lose the midterms anyway, then why not go ahead and do what needs to be done for 47 years? That would be my question. Joining me now is Holly Adams. She's running for a congressional seat in Ohio against Greg Landsman, who portrays himself as a common-sense moderate Democrat. Well, does such a thing exist? Holly, welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning, Steve. Thank you so much for having me.
Glad to have you here. Ohio 1, where is that?
That is in Southwest Ohio. So it encompasses Hamilton County, which is where Cincinnati is.
Yep.
And then just north of that is Warren County and Clinton County. So there's kind of like a crux down here. We have Warren-Davidson in District 8. And then right here would be District 1. And then District 2 next to it.
So does that include Oxford, Ohio, where you'd be running?
No, Oxford is Warren-Davidson's district.
Gotcha. All right. Just trying to get a hand on the geography. All right. So tell me about Greg Landsman. This is what the Democrats do. They portray themselves as these moderates, and then they sit there and won't stand up for American citizens over illegal aliens. You know, Donald Trump closes the border. Incredibly important. Democrats don't support that. They didn't support, those that were receiving incredible awards at the State of the Union. They wouldn't stand for ordinary Americans of any stripe. It was really strange to me. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it just shows that the Democrat Party for a long time now is just very out of touch with American people. I mean, I feel that they are on the wrong side of God and the wrong side of our Constitution and the wrong side of the majority of Americans. And it's sad. It is sad to see them not stand up and acknowledge that the number one duty of our government is to protect American citizens, period. And that includes children and women that have been harmed by illegals that have come into our country, that have been put back out on the streets by activist judges. Children are being harmed in our schools through harmful indoctrination. It just needs to stop. People care about their families, their wallets, their children, and our country and our freedoms. And the Democrats, including Greg Landsman, are on the wrong side of each of those issues.
And what is the district like? Is it a D+ district, an R+ district? What is it?
Yeah, so it was more of a blue district, and then Ohio did redistrict late last year. And from what our research shows, it's pretty much a 50-50 district now. So there are people that are aligning under the Democrats, but it's heavily independent voters are in the district. And of course, as we know so many times, it's the independent voters that decide these elections. And when I talk about those issues, and the issues, and Americans know the issues that people care about, I really believe that Republicans are much more aligned with independents and even libertarians. And it's kind of like the three of those groups versus the opposite that the Democrat Party represents.
Yeah.
So I feel there is a good opportunity here to...
Well, here's what my pollsters are telling me. My pollsters are telling me that Iran was a mistake because Americans want to focus on kitchen table issues, not foreign policy. Now, to me, foreign policy is half of what the president does. And these are good pollsters, and I trust what they say. How does the president get back on track with, well, frankly, affordability? It's something the Democrats made up after they ran inflation to over 9%, but here we are. And they've got people like Singham running billions of dollars worth of ads on social media and so forth, denigrating the president at every turn, creating rent-a-riot, hands-off Iran protests. It's all paid for, of course, by people like Singham and others. How do we get back to those issues so we can say, look, you can afford a home, interest rates are down, the GDP is up? How do we get there in Ohio and everywhere else?
Well, the best way to do it is to elect Republicans, especially America First Republicans that are aligned with the Trump agenda and not Democrats. So if you see those issues with affordability and the economy and inflation, they typically have negative consequences when the Democrats take power, just like they did under Obama. And then Trump came in his first term and turned those things around. So again, the Biden years and era with the open borders and the overspending and the waste, fraud, and abuse that was not dealt with on his watch led to all of these higher prices. So the best thing Americans can do is let the Trump and the conservative policies stay on course. We're already making progress. The last thing we want to do is let the Democrats take power. They will halt the progress, even reverse the progress. And we saw that over the last 4 years. So I think it's really important that Americans remember what the 4 years before Donald Trump were like and acknowledge where we were and how far we've come in a year, and give him and give Americans another 4 or 3 years with Donald Trump and the Congress to support him to do what they need to do to make things more affordable again.
Yeah, the danger here clearly is if Democrats get control of the United States House, and there's a lot of factors here, Holly, as you know, this Supreme Court decision on Louisiana could be huge because it could swing 12 or 15 seats to the Republicans. It would also freeze the redistricting in California and Virginia. But if Democrats somehow squeak through or come through with a victory of any kind, it'll be 2 years of impeachment and nonsense and chaos. That's all it'll be. They won't be there to help anybody except themselves for sound bites. Last word to you.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on this show. I'm really looking forward to serving Ohio's 1st District. I feel that I truly am the best candidate for all people, regardless of political affiliations, because, I'm running I feel called to run for this office, and I will serve out of love. I'm running as a citizen servant. I'm not a career politician. I really want to get into office and help complete solutions that are best, that make, every American have their best possible life possible.
All right, how do people find you?
HollyAdamsForCongress.com. And I'd love to meet them in person. I'd love to meet as many voters as person over the course of the next 60 days to answer any questions that they have.
Holly, thank you so much for being here. Well done.
Thanks so much, Steve.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. Look, and there's no question about it. If and when Democrats get control of the House in the midterms, that's the end of it. That is the end of it, potentially for a very long time. If the Republicans win, then it's a good thing long term. It is a binary choice. Socialism, welfare programs, and weak foreign policy, or an America you can be proud of. It is binary, as far as I can tell. And I am a member of no political party, never have been, never will be. I'll be right back. All right, a lot to talk about here. Celebrations in Iran, you know that. Celebrations in Iran. And celebrations in Los Angeles, New York, Toronto, Paris, London. But here we are with the polling numbers in the ditch. Mark Vargas is the editor-in-chief of Illinois Review, part of the Iraq Task Force, Office of the Secretary of War, 2007 to 2010. So he's well-versed. Mark, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Give me your take on Operation Epic Fury to date.
Well, as you talked about all the celebrations by Iranians around the world, what's remarkable is that the Iranian people are proving to be more American than our own Democrat Party. But this is an issue that's near and dear to my heart. While I was in Iraq in the green zone 14 times between 2007 and 10, the rockets and mortars being aimed at the green zone to target American service members, to target American civilians, to target American contractors were all made in Iran. And dare I say it, Steve, that President Donald Trump had the testicular virility to do what no other president has done but should have done. And that was to take out the head of the snake in Iran. For decades, for over 40 years as a state sponsor of terrorism, they had funded terrorist groups like Hezbollah, like Hamas, like the Houthis. Why do they exist? Because they've all received funding from Iran. Since 2006, Iran has backed and funded over 1,000 terror attacks around the world. Hezbollah would receive up to $700 million a year in funding from Iran. These are very vicious and dangerous and violent terror organizations that use men and children, or women and children, as human shields. They launch rockets and mortars from the tops of hospitals and schools, daring those to return fire and kill innocent civilians.
So much worse than that, actually, in some ways, Mark. Yeah, and you're right about everything you've said, everything. But inside Iran, so much worse. The legal marrying age in Iran, by the way, if you don't know, is 13. Although
10. They
often ignore that rule and marry as young as 8 or 9. 8 or 9 elementary school girls being married off to adult men. They throw gay men off the tops of buildings for sport. The human rights abuses inside that regime are remarkable. And it depends on who you talk to here in the last few weeks. Tens of thousands of citizens shot down or hung in public or murdered in prisons. And it's gone on since 1979. The people of Iran want to be free. Now, the problem for me is it doesn't poll well at home because the Democrats, you point out, they'll find any reason to say this shouldn't happen, even though every one of those Democrats, beginning with Hillary Clinton running for president in 2008, said they should take out Iran. We just played the soundbite earlier today. Take out Iran. But now that President Trump has done what they claimed they would do, well, now it's a problem.
This shouldn't be a surprise. This is the same Democrat Party that has prioritized violent, criminal, illegal aliens over law-abiding American citizens. But you're right. This is Trump derangement syndrome playing out on live television. And secondarily, you're absolutely correct in what's the abuse is going on inside of Iran. I mean, the Democrats like to talk about women's rights. Well, why aren't they crying out women's and young girl rights about in Iran? I mean, the over 40,000 Iranians have been murdered by that regime for simply protesting over the last couple of months. These numbers are absolutely staggering. But, you know, the Democrat Party is no surprise. They're opposed to this. They were opposed to taking out Maduro, even though under Biden they favored it. This is why I think the Democrats are going to have some issues going into the midterm election cycle. They don't have a message other than let's oppose everything Donald Trump says. There's no leadership. There's no infrastructure. And this is going to spell big trouble for the Democrats who simply just want to impeach Donald Trump. That's their only objective.
That is their only objective. Yeah. The problem is Donald Trump attracted a lot of young people to his side in 2024. Probably the decisive factor were people voting between the age of 18 to 30 in bigger numbers for Trump than at other times in American history. Those people don't believe they got what they paid for. I mean, the polling shows that young people are not seeing their prices come down. They're not seeing affordability of a house or an apartment come down. I don't know. I'm pretty concerned right now, Mark. I realize it's only March, and the world can change 10 times between now and November. But it concerns me, the people that voted for Trump, young people certainly, are saying we won't do it again or won't turn out at all. And then the Democrats, with their machines to turn people out, end up winning the House, maybe even the Senate. That's my concern.
Well, I hear you, Steve, but I'm always skeptic of polls. Remember, these polls said that Hillary Clinton would beat Donald Trump in 2016. I look at what the polls said on CNN right after before and after the State of the Union address last week. 54% thought Trump was taking the country in the right direction after the State of the Union. 64% of Americans thought President Donald Trump was taking our country in the right direction. A 10-point jump in a 2-hour speech. I think it just takes a little bit of time for the young people to see and reap the benefits, but mortgages are down, rent is down, grocery prices are down, gas is down. It's there. They just may not recognize it, but it's important to keep highlighting this day in and day out, going all the way into the midterm elections aggressively.
Well, Mark, I appreciate your optimism. Look, we've got to keep fighting for this country. It doesn't get any easier. And remember, folks, political victories, every single one of them are temporary. You have to keep reinforcing, or it goes the other way. Mark Vargas, thank you for being here.
God bless you. Thank you, Steve.
God bless you. Appreciate you being here. Yep, political victories are all temporary. And if you want to ensure that America's not temporary, do the right thing. And what that means is get out and vote. Hold your nose if you have to. I can assure you the alternative is worse. The alternative is socialism, centralized digital currency run by the government, AI surveillance of everything you do. And they do some of that now, I get it. But it'll be far worse. 1984 will look mild by comparison. I'll take a break and come back with sports and lift you up with that after this. Time now to check in on sports with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. In men's college basketball last night, number 1 Duke clinched the ACC regular season title with a 93-64 thrashing of North Carolina State on the road. And number 2 Arizona won the Big 12 regular season title with a 73-57 victory over 6th-ranked Iowa State in Tucson. In the NBA last night, there were 4 games. Winners were Boston, Houston, Denver, and the Los Angeles Clippers. In the NHL, there were 6 games. Winners were Detroit, Columbus, Philadelphia, Dallas, Colorado, and Seattle. In the NFL, there were a couple of notable trades. The Houston Texans sent right tackle Titus Howard to the Cleveland Browns for a 5th-round pick in this year's draft. The Texans also sent a 4th-round pick this year and a 7th-round pick next year to the Detroit Lions for backup running back David Montgomery. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
Yeah, I don't like it. I like Montgomery, but, salary caps and such, right? That's what you told me.
That was pretty much a salary cap move for somebody who's a bit overpaid now for a backup running back, and that's why they did it.
I didn't really think he was a backup running back. I thought he was, he was a 1-2 punch to me.
Yeah, but Jahmyr Gibbs kind of took over the number 1 spot, really, this past season. Had a Pro Bowl year, and he's younger. I think he's 5 years younger. So,
yeah, he's a great back. No question.
He's terrific.
Yeah.
And they got to get under the salary cap. They also, the Lions also released offensive lineman Graham Glasgow, which would save about $5.5 million on the cap. They're still over the cap right now. They got to get under by March 13th, which is when free agency begins.
There you go. Brock Palmbush, thank you. By the way, if you want to stop concussions before they happen when you're playing sports like football, Dr. Michael Hutchinson has patented a breakthrough mouth guard for athletes in every sport, and it's a game changer. Athletes using NeuroGuard Plus suffer concussions just 0.26% of the time. That's almost unheard of, and it gets better. The mouth guard can boost your strength and speed up to 16%. It's been tested by Michigan State and Wayne State. Protect your brain, upgrade your performance. Keep your kid's brain in the game, too. NeuroGuardPlus.com. Save 10%. with the promo code Gruber. NeuroGuardPlus.com. Save 10%, promo code Gruber. Another big hour of the program straight ahead. This is The Steve Gruber Show.
From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
All right, let's kick this into high gear with another hour here on the Steve Gruber Show, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. Always putting America first, but questioning everything along the way. Be careful where you get your news. Three big things this hour. Start with this. Number one. More than 550 CDL training schools have been closed by the Trump administration because they're handing out bogus commercial driver's licenses, putting us all at risk. Number two, Bernie Sanders, Ro Khanna, proposing a billionaire tax because they want to send money to their voters. And number three, from the theater of war in Iran, from Operation Epic Fury. The death count now 6 American service members killed as their bodies were found in the rubble yesterday of a strike. A retaliatory strike by whatever is left of the Iranian regime. They still have some capabilities, but not what they had here just a few days ago. At least 11 ships have been sunk, 10 ships, 1 submarine gone in the Gulf of Oman. Those are gone. The supreme leader is dead, along with 40, give or take, of the other top military commanders of the IRGC and so much more. We're going to keep a close eye on this. Nothing big this morning. There was a strike on the American embassy in Saudi Arabia, but it was a drone, no casualties, I understand, and the damage is contained. So there you have that. I want to go back to something I was talking about in the last hour here for a moment. We're going to catch up on a couple of things. And that is the Supreme Court having a case before them about whether or not you forfeit your Second Amendment rights if you smoke dope. If you smoke marijuana, if you consume weed, all right? Should you lose your constitutional rights to keep and bear arms? Well, Justice Gorsuch had an interesting take on all of this in a conversation. It's fascinating to me to learn just how much alcohol the Founding Fathers consumed daily. Oh, yeah, they put it down. Listen to this.
One can ask whether the habitual drunkard statutes are sufficiently, the how and why is sufficiently analogous. One could also ask, though, more basically, whether this defendant would qualify as a habitual user. And I want to explore that before we lose track of it. Habitual drunkard, the American Temperance Society back in the day said 8 shots of whiskey a day only made you an occasional drunkard. We have to remember the founding era if you want to invoke the founding era. To be a habitual drunkard, you had to do double that, okay? John Adams took a tankard of hard cider with his breakfast every day. James Madison reportedly drank a pint of whiskey every day. Thomas Jefferson said he wasn't much of a user of alcohol. He only had 3 or 4 glasses of wine a night, okay? Are they all habitual drunkards who would be properly disarmed for life under your theory?
No, and again, I think this is something...
Okay, if they're not, then what do we know about Mr. Hamani? We know he uses marijuana a few times, about every other day. That's all we have in the record, right?
That's all we have, and I'm
Okay,
not troubled by it.
so we don't even know the quantity of how much he uses every other day. What if he took 1 gummy bear with a medical prescription in Colorado? Well, you may not even need a medical prescription. You don't even need that anymore. But let's say he had one to help him sleep every other day. Disarm him for life?
My simple answer is no. You don't disarm somebody for life, or at all for that matter. But what a remarkable conversation. If you had 8 shots of whiskey a day, you were an occasional drunkard. You had to drink twice that a day to be a drunkard. 16 shots of whiskey a day, I'd be dead. And so would most of you. Crazy. John Adams, a thing of hard cider with breakfast every day. James Madison, a pint of whiskey every day. Lord help us. All right. So back to something else I talked about earlier in the program. Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, their deposition tapes were released to the public yesterday. And when notified about a photo being released on Twitter, on X, Hillary Clinton, well, she didn't take it very well. Listen to this.
Information. Okay. I went to the fundraiser to support my friend Nia Lowy.
All right.
Excuse me, can I interrupt?
I have
There
another.
are photos that are being released of the secretary as she is testifying from inside this room. Can you please advise me as to whether or not that's permissible and consistent with the rules, particularly given that we have asked for a public hearing? If there are photos that are being released of the secretary as she is testifying, can you please explain how that
I'm
can
done
occur?
with this. If you guys are doing that, I am done. You can hold me in contempt from now until the cows come home. This is just typical behavior.
We will go off the record.
Oh, for heaven's
So I would like to understand how that's permissible.
Before the hearing was. It doesn't matter. We all are abiding by the same rules.
I will take that down.
Yeah,
So
well.
I would like to take a break at this moment.
Yeah,
and I'd like to have
I'm
a
done
conversation.
for now.
Go off the record. Go off the record.
Off the record. Yeah. Didn't go over very well. That was mild compared to when Nancy Mace pressured her on donations to the Clinton Foundation. He was one of the founding donators, philanthropists to the Clinton Global Initiative and the Clinton Foundation, yet she claims she never knew him. It gets a little dicey here as well. Here's more.
Very much about at all.
And then how do you know Howard Lutnick?
I know Howard Lutnick because when I was senator on 9/11, the firm he headed, Cantor Fitzgerald, suffered the greatest loss of life. As I recall, something like 650 of his employees were murdered by terrorists that day. Howard Lutnick missed being a victim because he was delayed dropping
know
his
that. I
child
asked
off
him.
to
No.
kindergarten. You asked the question. I'm going to answer your question.
Now you're gonna yell
This
at
was
me?
what I spent
You're
my
going to yell at
time
me.
doing.
I'm a
I
survivor
spent
trying to look out for other
Well,
survivors, trying to
and
get to the
I
bottom
was
of it.
taking care
You
of
waited
the
6
people
months
who
to
lost
get here today.
3,000
6 months,
lives
and now you're being
at World
defiant
Trade
and
Center.
indignant today.
You asked me
I
about
have met
Howard
with Epstein
Lutnick.
survivors. I'm a survivor myself. You have emails. You've denied that Jeffrey Epstein, that you tried to get Jeffrey Epstein to give money to you.
I did
but
not.
Howard Lutnick was
If
used
you
to
have an
get
email
money.
with me asking Jeffrey Epstein
I have
for
an
money,
email from Howard Lutnick sending it to Jeffrey Epstein and his people to
I
raise
don't-
money for
I don't
you
know about-
for an event, an intimate event for you at his offices
Well,
at Cantor Fitzgerald. You're
look,
going to sit
if
here
you-
today
if you would
and,
let me
and,
finish.
and obfuscate and say to this committee, you didn't try to get money from Jeffrey
I
Epstein
didn't.
when
I
there was
didn't.
an intimate event in an email that Howard Lutnick emailed to Epstein's people and Epstein to get him to come to your intimate event at Cantor Fitzgerald, a very small event. And so I'm not going to put up. You want to yell at me, that's fine, but I'll yell right back.
Well,
okay? I am looking out for
it's
survivors.
very-
I'm doing
look.
the job that you would not do and refuse to do as Secretary of State. Thank you, and I yield back to
no,
Congresswoman.
I'm going to finish.
Wow. They seem nice. Nancy Mace also diced it up with Bill Clinton. I'll share that soundbite with you again because she asked me why would somebody write that he likes them young? Oh, that's just not true. Are interns young? Yeah. Uh-huh. Seems like you admitted it yourself. Anyhow, those tapes are available for your pleasure on the internet pretty much everywhere. I'll take a break and be right back. All right, welcome back to it. Remarkable quote that I saw in a tweet on X from my next guest. He says, the stakes for the Iranian people right now cannot be overstated. An Iranian-American neighbor told me, quote, this must be what the French felt like at the start of D-Day. What an interesting comparison that must be. Freedom's coming. Can you imagine what it would have been like if CNN was on the beaches of Normandy reporting in real time, or if they were doing polling in 1941? Do you want to go to war, not go to war? I mean, it is a different day. And because everything happens in real time and you see it first, I think it changes people's perceptions without question. Dr. Josh Makanki, retired USAF colonel in the Air Force, an emergency physician, military commander, award-winning author as well. Doctor, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
What a remarkable quote. This must be what the French felt like on D-Day when they started to get news that there had been a landing. I think that's similar. You see the Iranians are dancing in the streets in Los Angeles, New York, Toronto, Boston, London, Paris. And yet here in this country, a complete disconnect, I think. What do you say?
Yeah, I thought that was a great comparison. And, I don't think it is hyperbole. My neighbor still has friends and family there in Iran, and that's what they were comparing it to. I mean, just the hope. Now, it's not the end. Just like D-Day was not the end of World War II, there was a lot of fighting after that. It's the beginning. And there's a tremendous amount of work to do. And I know the president, that's the plan, is for them to take back their country themselves. So very important.
Now, he said yesterday, when asked, how long do you think this takes? Well, we had planned for 4 or 5 weeks, but we'll take however long it takes. And I say this to the critics, those on the Trump side of the equation who were Trump supporters, and maybe they're not now. I would say this, if not Trump now, then who and when? How long do you allow the Iranian regime to continue to build missiles, nuclear and non-nuclear? How long do you allow them to continue to supply terrorist organizations like Hezbollah and Hamas? How long, honestly?
Yeah, we gave them way too much latitude. This should have happened much sooner. And, my hat goes off to the president. I mean, he gave as much time as he possibly could to allow diplomacy to work. When they are literally getting weeks or maybe a month away from getting a nuclear weapon, that cannot happen under any circumstance. And so this was inevitable, and he's using the force necessary.
Yeah, some people would say the Operation Midnight Hammer was supposed to have stopped the nuclear ambitions of the regime. And so Democrats calling that a failure, people like Senator Mark Kelly calling that a failure, and of course criticizing the president. Of course, their only stance at this point is anything anti-Trump. I mean, you can go all the way back to 2008. Hillary Clinton said that she would bomb Iran. They could not have a nuclear weapon. Barack Obama said the same, but then instead of going after Iran, he sent him $1.7 billion in cash in the middle of the night. Joe Biden released $6 billion of frozen assets, basically funding the regime again and again and again.
Yeah, that was a horrific mistake, the $6 billion. What did they think they were going to do with that money? It's crazy. It's like they forget that we have sound bites from many years ago, decades ago, 5 years ago. Everyone was in support of this type of action until Trump does it. So
yeah. The challenge is young voters that voted for Donald Trump in big numbers, bigger than any time in my lifetime. The young voters went to a Republican candidate saying they will not again. And they're not necessarily Democrats or Republicans. They're just young voters who are not ideologically positioned in any particular way. They just want a chance to buy a house. So how do you pivot to domestic policy and still do the right thing in the Middle East?
Well, if you really highlight the importance of domestic policy will definitely be affected by nuclear war and those threats of Iran. I served in the Middle East, and in 2007, I was there for part of the surge. And those dangers and the threats from Iran cannot be overstated for decades. The supreme leader and their leadership wakes up every single day and just the first thing they think is, how many Americans can I kill today? What can I do to kill Americans? I carried body bags of American heroes off the battlefield. They were injured and killed by Iranian technology and Iranian trained insurgents. I was there during 2007 for the 8 helicopters that were shot down in a 2-week span, all with Iranian equipment and training. So it is very dangerous. This has been decades in coming, and there really wasn't an option for the president. This had to happen,
Yeah.
and that would directly affect everything at home, your economic.
I only want to correct one thing, Doctor. The Supreme Leader won't be waking up today to do much of anything, I'll tell you that. Neither will 40 or more of his military commanders and so much more. A short duration to this operation would be beneficial to the administration, but it is a challenge. It's a challenge because the talking heads that are well compensated for their detracting of this operation continue to parrot the. He had no plan. He had no idea they have no idea what they're doing. Well, they had a plan, was to decimate the nuclear and ballistic missile programs, to decimate the Navy. Those things have been happening and are ongoing. 11 ships lost last time I checked, 10 ships and a submarine. But expediency is important here. You need to get this done. And unfortunately, wars travel at the speed they travel without much control from me or you. Last word to you.
Yes, very defined mission set. You cannot allow them to have nuclear weapons. It couldn't be more crystal clear. America is safer for this action, clearly. And, I hope it doesn't take any longer than necessary either, but this was very critical.
It was. Doctor, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I agree with him, by the way. Let me tell you about something people keep asking me about, the QE infrared facial mask. This is red and infrared light therapy you can use at home and help support healthier-looking skin, boost collagen, and soften the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles. Instead of expensive spa treatments, you just wear the mask for a few minutes a day. Comfortable, easy to use, and it fits right into your routine. It's the same mask that Ivy uses. Yes, she does, and that's why she looks great. Skip the costly spa visits. Go to QEstrong.com. Use the promo code Gruber. You can get the mask for less than $200. It's an unbelievable price, I realize. QEstrong.com. A red light therapy mask. And you can scare the kids. You got that going for you. Less than $200. QEstrong.com. Promo code is Gruber. I'll be back with Ivy in a few minutes. Here's something for you from private equity. Vanguard, one of the big ones. There's three. There's State Street, BlackRock, and Vanguard. Those are the three giants. And ESG opponents say Vanguard's settlement documents prove the company colluded to push the climate agenda. Not because it was the right thing to do, but because they could make money off the deal. Surprised? Me either. To settle a lawsuit that it colluded to harm the coal industry, investment firm Vanguard, while denying any wrongdoing, has agreed to provide communications it had with other parties. Opponents of ESG are eager to find out what is in those communications. The agreement will resolve a multi-state lawsuit accusing investment firms of colluding to harm the coal industry. It contains an item that opponents of ESG are very excited about. It could confirm the lawsuit's accusations, could prove them false, but it probably won't. Will Hild, Executive Director of Consumers Research, said in a webinar that the documents Vanguard is going to provide will demonstrate that the asset managers were colluding as the lawsuit accuses them of doing. For a long time, the defense of these asset managers has been to claim this is some sort of crazy conspiracy theory. I think we're about to find out that it is the opposite. that they were hiding in plain view their activities, and I can't wait to see what that discovery is going to divulge. BlackRock, State Street weren't part of the settlement, and litigation continues against them in the same case for the same activities, promoting an anti-coal agenda to prop up the Green New Dealers and to line their own pockets. That's what this is about. That's exactly what this is about. And it's going to be exposed, so we'll keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, we do have primary day. Ken Paxton, Jasmine Crockett, Senator John Cornyn, Congressman Tallarico, Democrats and Republicans all vying for a place on the November ballot in the state of Texas. North Carolina also having primaries today. Big day in elections. Kind of lost in the noise here. But not here. We'll have results for you tomorrow, of course. I'll be right back with Ivy. It is the Steve Gruber Show. All right, let's jump back into it now. You know, I don't even know if people want me here anymore.
What?
I'm telling you. They say, you know, dump him, keep her, because they love Ivy. I mean, and I get that. You know, I mean, I get that more than anybody.
Oh, my goodness. goodness.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
How are you?
We make a great team. You know, we can't dump one for the other. That's
I'm just telling you, give the people what they want.
I think we should take a vote that Ivy becomes the new fill-in for Steve.
Ah, see?
Yes, but generally we're like, if Scott's filling in, we're together.
Yeah,
We're
but not
traveling
always.
together, but not always. Maybe one day. I
You
promised
can do it,
I would.
Ivy. I have faith in you.
Oh my goodness! Thank you so much, everyone. You're so supportive.
I have faith in you too.
Yes, and I actually made a promise. I'm going to get prompter ready and things like that. You know, prompts that happen behind the scenes. You know, I'm
Right.
generally out here. I don't have a script. I do some background, and I come out here and I just talk to you.
From the heart.
And what I think, from my heart.
Yeah, that's good. So what's on your mind today?
So I know, of course, we've been very focused on what's happening in Iran.
Sure.
But there was a big win for parental rights in California.
Oh, yeah.
And the Supreme Court just ruled and reinstated a lower court ruling that restricts California schools from implementing policies that mislead parents about their child's gender presentation. And if you guys didn't know this, in California and some other states, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the schools, if your child is deciding, well, I am a girl and I want to become a boy, and at home, as a parent, you're saying they would hide that, and the school then takes them through the process
secretly
of transitioning into a boy
Something
or
else.
a girl, whatever the opposite sex that they are.
Right. So Jenny becomes Johnny at school,
Right.
and the school keeps it completely silent.
Right. And as we heard during the State of the Union, some states will even go as far as taking your child away if you refuse this.
Well, that's happening in Europe. If you refuse, and New Zealand and Australia, if you refuse to go along with gender transitioning, which isn't possible anyway,
right?
And do this. And by the way, speaking of that, I've got an article here from Chloe Cole, who we know, who's one of the most well-known detransitioners, right? Who went this. Cole underwent puberty blockers, testosterone, and double mastectomy between the ages of 12 and 16.
So they remove their breasts when they're 12. Is that?
That's what you're hearing. Yeah. And so she was first started on heavy hormone therapy, and then a radical double mastectomy. And by the time she was 16, she said, I've made a terrible mistake.
Yeah.
And it was all pushed. So she's suing Kaiser Permanente for fraud, malpractice, damages after they medically transitioned her between 12 and 16. She says, they gave me puberty blockers, testosterone, and eventually ending in a double mastectomy surgery to get rid of my breast because this is something that had caused great harm in my life. She and her parents mostly were told over and over again, if you don't do this, she's going to die. So
she's going to commit suicide, and therefore that's how she would die.
And what a terrible look. Let's give the parents some grace here for a moment, shall we? These are parents that are scared to death for their child.
Right.
They're being fed a steady stream of propaganda. You've got to do this. If you don't do this, Chloe's going to die. She's going to commit suicide or whatever. And so here's the other part of that. The doctors for that double radical mastectomy got $30,000, I believe it was. So they make big money off this. So you convince the parents, this is a terrible thing for your child. You have to go down this road. You convince the child. Yeah. And we've heard the stories, Ivy. They're in with a therapist for an hour, 1 hour. Oh, yep, got to transition. For 1 hour. It's unbelievable. And we will radically not just transform your body, but your mind, your life, because you need medical treatment for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
oftentimes.
It's so sad. It really hurts my heart in this regard because our young people, male and female, have a tremendous amount of pressures, peer pressures, social media pressures that they endure every single day. Puberty is already a tough time for kids.
Especially girls.
Especially girls. And I think young men too. They have raging testosterone and of course I think a lot of schools, public school systems want boys to act like appropriate little girls,
That's exactly what they want. Yeah.
You need to calm down, don't have any energy. I mean, my goodness, our kids have so much energy, and then put that on top of all the poor food they eat. So it just makes it so much worse. But anyhow, I really feel for these kids. And I know there's so many of these influencers out there. I'm sure these, transgender influencers that these kids follow, or they think it's like the society is pushing them to have to do this. So it's just so sad.
Yeah, we know a young woman who flew pride flags at one point, and later I was able to ask her, I said, why did you feel the attraction there? Because if she was bombarded on social media.
Right.
That was her own testimony.
And that is by design, okay?
Of course it is.
And I hope you as parents and grandparents or aunts and uncles out there listening, I hope that you are aware and talk to your family, young people in your life about this stuff and say, hey, maybe that's not the best way to
address this. Yeah.
And if you begin to see signs of this, open their eyes to this. Even, listen, God doesn't make mistakes. We are all made in the image of God, and we are all perfectly made. And so it's just, I just feel so badly for these kids. And I have gone through and actually told people what these kinds of surgeries entail, which are very, very gruesome and harsh. Things that you can never, you talk about detransitioning. Well, detransitioning isn't really something that you can do very well. It is a lifelong
It depends on how far down that road you went.
Yes, it's a lifelong alteration. I mean, if you cut your penis off, that's pretty long term.
That's pretty much it.
So anyhow, of course, the Justices Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson were dissenters in this case, but it's a good step in the right direction. I think this will continue to be the case. Parental rights, religious rights will continue to prevail in this country, and it just takes bold action. And I just encourage people, if you're going through this, to, seek out legal help so that you can push back against just this absolute insanity that's going on, this evil stuff that's going on in our country.
And if you have somebody pushing you in that direction, get a second opinion, a third, a fourth, a fifth. Don't just settle for one person.
It just makes me think about women's rights too, and we think about the Iranian takeover, this Operation Epic Fury, and what it all means. And I've seen that there's the polling for Americans supporting this, and I don't know who they're polled, and I haven't seen any updated polling, but that it's not a great support for this.
No.
But at the same time, I think that that's because people just are truly not that knowledgeable or have a lot of historical understanding.
Zero.
Of the threat that Iran actually poses on our country.
Yeah, not just to our country, to its own citizens.
To its own citizens,
There are
too.
no women's rights in Iran currently.
And the thing is, I think the argument out there is for those who are in opposition are saying, well, this is great for the Iranian people, but how is this great for America? And they're only saying a very small portion of this. Yes, this is liberating for the Iranian people. But we'll continue this conversation, Steve.
We will, because it's much more...
I want you to hear a couple things. I have some things for you.
Much more broad-based. Ivy, nice to see you this morning. She's going to stay with us. It's a double shot of Ivy. You lucky people, you. You have no idea. I had to pay extra. Bunch. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to it as we continue our conversation. Ivy's here with me this morning, as she usually is. But today we get a double shot. What a bonus for me and everyone else. Ivy, what else you got?
So I want to play you a bite. It's CVS's Tony DeCopel, and he lays out this timeline. And I just want you to hear it, and then we can talk about it. Go ahead, Anthony.
If you're looking for an origin point of this current war, don't look to the earliest hours of this Saturday. Look back to November 4th, 1979. That was the day Iranian revolutionaries stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, capturing 52 Americans and parading them in blindfolds for the whole world to see.
A new and daring element was disclosed today in the Iran crisis, which has held world attention for 87 years.
For the next 444 days, they were held captive, the tally kept nightly by Walter Cronkite. Finally, the hostages were released, but that wasn't the end of the story either. Far more bloodshed was to come. In 1983, 241 U.S. service members were killed in their barracks by an Iran-backed suicide bomber in Beirut. Americans can argue, and they are, over whether this is a war of necessity. But what's clear from the history is that the fuse of this explosion is 50 years long and has included the loss of thousands of American and Iranian lives. Every president since Carter has tried to end this conflict. In 2015, President Barack Obama announced a deal to stall Iran's nuclear ambitions, a deal that President Trump replaced with a campaign of maximum pressure and now military might.
Today, the United States military continues
Anthony,
to
you can
carry
come back to
out
us.
large-scale combat operations.
That's pretty remarkable. I hadn't seen that.
Right.
Wow.
I'm like, wait a second. The mainstream media, CBS, is actually reporting the truth of the origins of our conflict with Iran.
It is amazing. It actually goes back before then. You know, the CIA replaced the democratically elected prime minister of Iran. They elected a man in 1951. The CIA meddled and they replaced him because they didn't like it in 1953. So that brought in the Shah of Iran, who was there until 1979 when the Islamic Revolution took over and we saw all this chaos ensue. So that's why Americans are so leery of nation building and so forth. It didn't work in Iraq or Afghanistan. I understand that. This is not Iraq. This is not Afghanistan. And President Trump is not like those previous presidents, from what I can tell.
No, I think there's a lot of criticism online, too, about how, the president, follows the orders of other, of Netanyahu or whatever.
Clear,
and I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah.
This president doesn't take orders from anyone.
Clearly.
And he is going to do what he thinks is right and what's right for the American people. And if you think that, you're sorely mistaken. But, I want you to hear this other bite from some Iranian women about what they think about the president. Go ahead, Anthony.
Love you, Trump. You can't imagine how we are appreciate our country, our people. I'm really appreciate. We love you.
Thank you, Mr. President Trump. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you, Mr. President. Dear Mr. President Trump.
Trump kill Khamenei. I'm so happy. Thanks, Trump. Thanks, Trump. You are the best man in the world. I love you, Trump.
I want to have a big thanks to President Trump for keeping his promise and freeing people of Iran that has nothing to do with this government, with this terrorist government.
Man,
wow.
That just brings tears to my eyes. The just celebration, the pure joy that they have for the actions of this president. I mean, think about, what is it, 45 million women have hope in their country again.
That's about right.
I think that you do understand that women there in the country under the Ayatollah had widespread legal discrimination. They were enforced dress codes, of course.
You couldn't take off your
hijab.
headscarf. The woman that was murdered by the government a couple of years ago because she dared to stand in public and remove it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. They had restricted personal freedoms. A lot of the time they wouldn't be able to have this, like if they wanted to go into a certain field, like a career, they couldn't because the men would get priority over that.
That's correct.
The state policed all of their behavior. They could be now in their country also, marriage has to be approved. They could get married as young as 13 years old.
Well, hold on. That's the legal line is 13. But in practice, they're marrying girls as young as 8 and 9. I've done the research. 8 and 9 years old, marrying men that are decades older. Yeah. Unbelievable, right?
And it's so unbelievable. It's just, You think about it, and then I see these, as I talked about yesterday, you know, the renter riots and the women holding the Ayatollah's picture.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you do realize that the Ayatollah do not stand for women's rights.
At all.
And so it is just so, it's amazing how brainwashed
They don't
these people
stand
are.
for women's rights, religious rights, no freedom of speech,
fake,
nothing.
They're fake humanitarians because no matter what it is, they stand for women's rights unless, you know, you kill the Ayatollah, who then are going to be giving women's rights back to them, they have hope for the future. You know, they stand with Maduro when the president went in and
took him
removed
out,
him.
right?
They stand with Palestine. They it's all of these things. Whatever the
right.
news
So
of the
they
day
stand with
is.
Hamas. They stand with the drug cartels.
Yeah.
They stand with the Islamic regime that is abused. Look, it's not just women. If you're gay, you get tossed off from buildings for sport.
Or it's stoned to death.
If you're a woman and you take off your hijab or whatever they call it, whatever, then you can be murdered in public.
Right.
It just goes on and on and on. So, look, it's not polling well. You know that. I've talked to the pollsters that I trust. But it's not polling any worse than he already was. So here's my point. If Donald Trump was going to lose the midterms anyway, why not do the right thing? Might as well do the right thing. And the right thing is freeing the people of Iran and protecting American interests. And we were told by Marco Rubio that if we had not done this, American bases all over the Middle East were being targeted.
Yeah, because they continue to build weapons and stockpile weapons. And then they're going to get to a point, they would have gotten to a point where there'd be no holding them back.
That's right.
And
whether it's nuclear or not.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And actually, I saw a bite that when Marco Rubio and Witkoff were sitting down with a representative from Iran, they told them they had like 60 million tons or something. It was some astronomical number, and with enriched uranium.
That's right. Just
they had enriched uranium way beyond what we believed that they had.
That's right.
So
gotta leave it there.
Okay.
Love you.
Love you too.
Isn't she great? Honestly, isn't she great? I'll be right back. All right, Ivy was just talking about Tony DeCouple at CBS News. He's the anchor of the CBS Evening News. Has been for only a few weeks. And we saw the report there of him actually giving the backstory and explaining that the fuse of this war was lit almost 50 years ago in 1979 November. Tony DeCouple pointing that out. And at the same time, there's reporting here, because Bari Weiss has taken over at CBS News. She's described, by the way, online as a conservative taking over the newsroom. She is no conservative. Bari Weiss is a liberal who left the New York Times because she said it was a poisonous atmosphere with ideological control from the left. Paraphrasing, of course. And now CBS News producers are leaving, claiming political bias at the Tiffany Network. Mary Walsh, leaving after 46 years, says staffers told to aim our reporting at a particular part of the political spectrum. CBS News pushing back hard on that, saying that's simply not true. Simply not true. Maybe aim your reporting to neutral instead of left. Telling the truth like Tony DeCouple did there. Incredibly important. Because when you look at reporting on Donald Trump, for example, leading up to 2024's November elections, 90% of it or more was negative from ABC, NBC, and CBS. 90% or more. More so at the New York Times and the Washington Post. Negative, negative, negative. And they still have big audiences, huge audiences, compared to cable news, for sure. Fox News always under attack, of course. But there is a new day in media, at least in some places. There are cracks in that leftist armor, and that's good news. That is good news. Just give it to us straight. We can figure it out. We'll take it from here. Just give us the facts, where, what, who, when, where, and why, and we'll figure it out. Fight the good fight and keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is The Steve Gruber Show. Remember to follow us on social media. All those platforms, including X, Facebook, Instagram, and yes, YouTube. Become a subscriber. And one last thing, remember this. Only you can save America.